Hello, BookTube, and welcome back to the Bankrupt Bookseller. Books on travel and guidebooks. Today I have been looking at a book called The Happy Traveler. It is written by a vicar and it is subtitled A Book for Poor Men. I see it has gone through many editions. I had to get the book for a young man who has great possessions, and as my dead mother used to say, he doesn't know what he would be at. His, I suppose, is a sad story. His father was a self-made businessman who made a big fortune by his own efforts from very small beginnings, but who died of overwork and worry in the early 50s. He left a wife who is an incurable invalid and one son. They are rich, very rich, but John is bound to his mother's bedside. He has He was brought up soft and solitary. He has no calling. He is kindly and affectionate. He loves his mother uncritically. She is the only creature he knows. She is dependent on him for company, indeed for everything except money, and there they are. John fancies he could travel. He hurled a chunk of Kipling at me the second time I saw him, but his mother can't, and he can't leave her. He is tied to his mother's apron strings, not literally, for she doesn't wear an apron. Where are they gone, these lovely aprons to whose strings a man might be happily tied? I remember my mother had a black satin apron, a pleasing thing to sedate, so comforting, a veritable lap of luxury. The Happy Traveler is a good book to read even if one never travels. It seems to be written by a man who knows how. It is practical rather than romantic. It is Baedeker or Muirhead rather than Walt Whitman, but John will never act on his consoles. He will stay and be faithful unto death, and may very probably be married by the capable nurse who just now manages the household for both of them. Travel books are not in great demand with me. One can't keep everything, and the would-be travelers I see come in so impetuously they that I am always taken unawares. Who, for example, among the bookseller keeps the Canary Islands, their history, natural history, and scenery on account of an ornithologist's camping trips in the archipelago? I had it a fortnight ago, specially procured for a queer bird, no pun intended, who told me to get it for him. The book cost him, not me, 30 shillings, and I would not have you think lightly of it. The pictures, plain and colored, are extremely good, ranging from washing clothes to humor to a colored drawing of the Canarian strange word titmus. Titmus. It is a book written by an ornithologist, but his interests fly wide of mere birds. There is history and geology in the book, a real entertainment for a man like me who now will never travel. I want to travel all the same. Books, dare I write, the heterodoxy of my trade, the sin for which a good bookseller ought to go to the stake. Yes, books are a mighty poor substitute for life. In the dullish hour that followed my tea, I went over my travel books, the local guides, the blue guides, a few Baedekers, Ward Locks, tourist handbooks, and so on. Then my pilgrimage took me to the sentimental journey. I felt thrilled with Belloc's The Path to Rome and John Gibbon's Tramping to Lourdes. Would the real journeying thrill me so much? I doubt it. Too many cooks have spoiled the broth, and birds of a feather too much flock together for a lonely and solitary loving bookseller. At the end of the day, I wrote this poem, the dilemma which lies astride my mind after these thoughts all day on books of travel finds expression. As I wrote it, I was a boy again in the house in which I was born, yearning for the big world, yet at bottom fearful of leaving the home I knew. I want to travel, see the strange, the wonderful. I want to range the roads and sail sea, they say, are gods, and yet I want to stay here in my house so close to so small, marking the fungus on the wall, peering at flies and bumblebees, staring at birds and watching trees, small mysteries of death and birth, all things tiny, all things small. I want to understand them all. And yet the great large world it calls me to, what is a silly fool like me to do? What a silly soul like me to do? Go to bed and pray that the old bird will call for his book on the Canary Islands tomorrow. Some days later, I find the sheet of paper partly written on top of what is now growing a pile in my cupboard. He came, the ornithologist, and got his book. He paid for it, for which I was glad. He might go a long way away and forget about me and my bills, which I have to meet for the books I sell. The same day I sold a Tennyson by asking a young man if he read Ulysses. He hadn't, and I sent him away with the Globe edition of Tennyson. I think Ulysses somehow quite out of Tennyson's line, though I am sure it is unequaled. When my youthful customer had gone, he bought an Edgar Wallace and a Phillips Oppenheim. I reproached myself for not having shown him Walt Whitman's Leaves of Grass, the Weekend Book, The Sentimental Journey, The Footpathway, The Open Road, The Path to Rome, Tramping to Lourdes. I have them all in stock. I reproached myself, but now I reproach myself for greed. It was that desire to sell that made me reproach myself. Damnation, I am becoming a shopman. I must remember my high calling. I am a bookman, not a bookseller. He will come again. With Ulysses, he cannot rest from travel. Quite. Of course I feel life is futile. I feel how little God knows mankind if he offers us prize life eternal. Who wants more of what they have already had too much? I write these blasphemous things because I think them. I feel better now. A lawyer has been in and told me he values my opinion on books and more than the reviews. He says I have a feeling for books. I recommended him Buddenbrooks and Magic Mountain, and he enjoyed them great, apparently. I am not sure that life eternal would be so distasteful to me. I would be congenially circumstanced. I would be clothed, of course, and in my right mind, I would be understood. It is so terrible not being understood. This man keeps saying to me when I blather about myself and what he thinks of books, I understand, I understand. When I am unusually chaotic and it is obvious I don't at all understand myself, he is equal to the occasion. He then always uncouthly says quite, and after a pause he says again quite. Balm in Gilead could not be more gratifying than the benignity of the second quite. Thank you, BookTube.